Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this, our 6th Eurogas Central and Eastern European Conference. And today we will be looking at some of the most important issues that are currently impacting the energy sector, looking at the Green Deal, and specifically looking at how they do impact this part of the world, this part of Europe. We would normally be coming live from Romania with you, and I'm delighted that we can still partner with our good member ACUE, and I really must thank them for all of the great support they've given to us for building this event, and I'm sure we're going to have a very successful day, so thank you to ACUE for that. But of course, with the pandemic, we're using the magic of technology to come live from a studio, but with our guests from all over Europe coming together to discuss these very important issues. We will be looking at how the gas market is functioning. We will be looking at what does the Green Deal mean for the development of gas in Central and Eastern Europe, and indeed very much in Romania. We have some very, very high-level speakers who will be giving their insights and their thoughts about what we need to do, what we should be doing, and how we can do it, which is of course the important part of this. Well, of course, we're also going to begin with a couple of welcoming speeches from the hosts of today's event. And I'm very happy to have with me today Philippe Sorkay, the President of Eurogas, and also the President for Gas, Renewables and Power of Total. Philippe, welcome to the event. We'd be very happy to hear your welcoming speech. So please, over to you.
Many thanks, James, and good afternoon and welcome, European Commissioner, Honourable MEP, Honourable MPs, representative of the Romanian government, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for Eurogas 6th Central and Eastern European Conference. We are very pleased that you could join us today to discuss the challenges that Europe and this region in particular face in delivering our common ambition of a climate-neutral future. Central and Eastern Europe is a uniquely important part of the European Union. And we are focusing today on one of the EU's longest members, but one with a great commitment to the European Union, Romania. Romania is an important country in Europe from both a cultural and historical perspective, rich in culture, rich with talented people, and rich in natural resources. Romania is also one of the few European Union countries that is also a producer of natural gas. And therefore, the subject we address today is of vital importance to Romania. Gas consumption and use of gas in heating, hot water and cooking is growing every year. Perhaps as many as 100,000 customers chose gas last year here in Romania. This demonstrates the public support for gas and gas use. But this is not a standalone experience in this part of Europe. Just a little further south in Greece, we are seeing consumers benefiting from gas as more households turn to use it, often in conjunction with renewable energy in the form of solar thermal systems. Indeed, a poll by Eurogas last year found very favorable sentiments towards gas in Greece and many of the countries in Europe, and especially in Central and Eastern Europe. The easy usability of gas and its affordability are really attractive attributes for the citizens of Europe. Yet, despite this strong appreciation of the flexibility of gas around Europe, the future of natural gas is less clear. The European Union, as you all know, has moved to set the target of carbon neutrality by 2050, and in doing so, brought forward a strategy that estimated the reduction in the use of natural gas in 2050. This thinking has been reflected in some of the recent legislation being developed by European institutions. For instance, the Sustainable Finance Initiative has brought into question the role of natural gas as a transition fuel by applying impossibly strict thresholds on the consumption of natural gas for power and for heat. It is the opinion of Eurogas that such policies can do harm to the intended objective of achieving carbon neutrality, potentially locking in the use of coal for many more years instead of providing the framework to move away to cleaner alternatives for power and for heating. In Eurogas, we've embraced the energy transition, supporting climate neutrality in 2050, and an ambitious carbon reduction target of at least 55% by 2030. We must have the right policy framework to deliver these objectives, and we must not prejudice against technologies that can deliver quick and affordable solutions for the problem of carbon emission today. Replacing coal, replacing oil, and unsustainable biomass in heating will improve air quality and will reduce as well greenhouse gas emission in countries in Central and Eastern Europe in particular, and this should be encouraged. The European Investment Bank, in its new lending guidelines, will continue to finance projects to install small efficient gas boilers in buildings, recognizing the immediate benefits this brings for the climate and for the environment. These are the type of sensible policies that we need in Europe. We need them to deliver an energy transition while keeping the interests of people at the heart of what we are doing to fight climate change. We are also understanding that there will be inevitably much change, and our recent study predicts a reduction in the use of natural gas by 2050 in the EU. But this does not mean the end of gaseous fuel by any stretch of the imagination. The future of gaseous fuel is looking brighter by the day. In Eurogas, we have predicted a reduction in the use of natural gas by 2050, but with strong growth in the use of biomethane and of the use of hydrogen, produced both from natural gas and from renewable electricity. Countries around Europe and the European Commission are quickly drawing up strategies to develop hydrogen. Biomethane can be produced sustainably in many parts of Europe, including here in Romania, utilizing agricultural waste and also waste streams from cities and wastewater. This can be blended into the gas system and deliver even cleaner fuel to the gas customers. This quickly contributes to the aim of reducing carbon emission. Hydrogen will be also a key component of the energy system in the future, not only for industry and transport, but also for heating and for power. Our recent study confirms this synopsis, demonstrating that using gaseous fuel in heating will save the EU taxpayers 12 trillion euros between now and 2050, compared to trying to electrify it to the extent modeled by the European Commission. So in Eurogas, we believe that the policy framework to deliver these new gases should include targets for both the reduction in greenhouse gas intensity of gaseous fuels and the percentage of renewable gas consumed by 2030. This will provide investor certainty and deliver quick reduction in cost of these new gases. The further good news about the energy transition and utilizing gas is that Europe is the home of the manufacturing of gas technology. Gas turbines and engines, electrolyzers, carbon capture and storage equipment, anaerobic digesters for biogas and hydrogen-ready small efficient boilers are all made here in the EU for you, the citizens of Europe. No other energy vector offers the same level of European technology leadership as the gas sector, nor the potential in non-seasonal seasonal quality production jobs. This was recently recognized in a joint statement by Eurogas and the trade unions Industrial and EPSU. Eurogas is currently running a campaign to raise awareness of these European technologies, so please do go to our website and social media to learn more about these European clean tech champions. Developing and delivering an energy transition with a strong gaseous fuel element is a win-win for Europe and for Romania. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking forward to the conference where many of these themes will be elaborated and discussed in more detail. But before I finish, I must make a statement of thanks to our partners, ACUE, and Eric Stab, the president of ACUE, for agreeing to co-host this event with us today. Eric, your team has been invaluable in supporting the delivery of this conference, and what an impressive lineup of speakers we have, thanks also to your work. So thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the conference, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Indeed, you've touched on many of the important issues that we will discuss today. Without further ado, you've mentioned Eric. I would be delighted to introduce Eric Stab, who is the president of ACUE and indeed also the president and chairman of ENGIE in Romania. Eric, welcome to the conference. It's great to have you with us today. We're very interested in hearing your opening speech. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, James, and a big thank you as well to you, Philippe, for your introduction. Mrs. Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, a member of the European and the Romanian Parliament, ladies and gentlemen representing the Romanian government, dear colleagues and guests, I'm glad to welcome you on behalf of ACUE, the Romanian Federation of Energy Utilities, to this online conference organized by Eurogas with our support and dedicated to the European Green Deal and what Central and Eastern European countries can do to deliver the expected results and targets in terms of decarbonization. The focus of the conference is on the role that the gas industry can and shall play to implement the Green Deal. And I'm delighted that such an extraordinary lineup of speakers, whom I wish to thank on behalf of ACUE, accepted our invitation to share their views on this topic. Let me share as well a few thoughts on this matter, and I will focus more specifically on the Romanian market, knowing that other speakers will broaden our horizons to the whole Central and Eastern European region. The Green Deal is, for our industries, the single most ambitious transformation that our sector has been, is, and will be undergoing for many decades, not to say a couple of centuries. And it's a huge challenge for all of us. Despite the fact that the role of gas in this transformation is being questioned, I believe that many of us agree that natural gas is the transition energy of a sustainable energy transition, that Europe needs natural gas to displace other fuels whose carbon footprint is more problematic, Philippe also just mentioned, and that gas can, in the form of greener solutions such as biogas, biomethane, or blue and green hydrogen, also contribute significantly to our continent's decarbonization strategy. The gas industry of Romania, a country that is the European Union's second largest natural gas producer and an important provider of future security of energy supply with the significant gas resources discovered in the Black Sea, is, I believe, and I'm sure other speakers will confirm this, aware of its responsibilities in this respect. The way to get to carbon neutrality in a cost-efficient manner, the associated timing, as well as the financial support measures are, however, key for our sector to deliver. Certain countries, such as Romania and many others in the region, do also have a different starting point, especially compared to Western Europe. Romania legitimately wishes to enjoy the economic and social benefits of having notable gas resources and bringing them to shore. Romania also legitimately wishes to develop its gas infrastructure, both through better interconnections with neighboring countries and the extension of its national transportation and distribution networks to ensure that more consumers, more citizens enjoy the thermal comfort of gas heating instead of having to use wood from the forest nearby. At the same time, it is equally crucial for Romania to make gradual but determined steps into the direction of further decarbonization of its energy production and of developing green gas alternatives to natural gas. We believe that we should not oppose electrification and gasification. We should not oppose either gas and electricity infrastructure. Both enjoyed significant investment in the past, and both will require major additional investments in the future. The cost of aiming, for instance, to fully electrify heating needs would be huge for the community. It is technically very, very challenging, and it would de facto, through the socialization principles of infrastructure regulation, lead to a strong increase of both electricity and gas infrastructure tariffs, making energy less and less affordable for consumers. European and national policymakers will, in the coming weeks, months, and years, significantly shape the future of energy, the future of gas, and the upcoming decisions, such as the one on taxonomy or on allocation of European funds to various types of projects will be closely watched to see whether we can reach our target in a cost-effective, affordable, and sustainable way. Let me finish by quoting Confucius, who said that the path is the goal. A quote also often attributed to Mikhail Gorbachev, where Steve Jobs said, the journey is the reward. Well, let us agree that now that we know the destination we are targeting, namely carbon neutrality, the path should be our goal and the journey our reward. Let's embark all together on this trip. I'm really looking forward to our exchanges. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Eric, and also for those very inspirational words and some good quotes that you've used there, certainly to lighten up the rest of the discussion. Well, as the Secretary General of Eurogas, it now gives me great pleasure to turn to our high-level keynote speakers. And the first of those is the Commissioner for Transport of the European Commission, Adina Vălean. We're very, very happy to have you with us today, and thank you for sparing us some time from your very busy agenda. And we're very keen to hear what you would like to pass to us today on the view of how this part of Europe can certainly support the delivery of the Green Deal. Commissioner, welcome, and the floor is yours.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to be invited at this event, this timely event, and I'm saying timely because as the transport sector focuses now on crisis recovery, we have the opportunity to build back better, as we are saying, to make our transport system more resilient, smarter and cleaner, and sustainable alternative fuels have a huge role to play here. Next week, I will present our new strategy for sustainable and smart mobility, which will set out how we plan to approach the dual decarbonization and digitalization transition needed to ensure our transport system is fit for the future. For alternative fuels, one of the challenges is to ramp up production. The European Commission will support this. Next year, we will be putting forward initiatives explaining how, including for aviation and maritime transport. I know that you are particularly interested in how gas fits with our sustainable ambition, so let's look at the options. The use of natural gas in transport is limited, as you know. Only 1.2 million CNG vehicles and around 10,000 LNG lorries are registered in the EU. The number of maritime LNG vessels is, however, increasing. In 2019, there were 159 in operation and a further equal number being purchased. Natural gas alone has only limited environmental advantages compared to oil-based fuels. It is another story, however, if they are blended with biomethane and/or e-gases produced from renewable electricity. In fact, our EU climate target plan sees a role for these three in our 2050 fuel mix. Now is the time for industry to start scaling up the production of renewable gaseous fuels so that costs are affordable. Investment in these fuels and the transport systems that will use them would strengthen European leadership role in these technologies, which is also very good for competitiveness. However, for gas to remain in line with our trajectory towards climate neutrality in 2050, we must also boost biomethane and e-gas production. This in turn requires more renewable electricity and improved carbon capture and storage technologies. Hydrogen. Hydrogen accounts for less than 1% of Europe's present energy consumption, and its use in transport is negligible. But with clean hydrogen expected to play a key role in decarbonizing the European economy, that is likely to change. In transport, heavy-duty freight transport, public buses, and in longer term, waterborne and aviation transport are expected to benefit from this development. Increasing the use of hydrogen is a key priority for the Commission. That's why we adopted a hydrogen strategy this summer, which focuses in particular on mainstreaming renewable hydrogen. For a transitionary period, we are also looking at blue hydrogen. Now, while the EU has supported the renewable fuels industry, in particular under the Horizon 2020 program, substantial research and innovation are still needed to bring biomethane, e-gases, and low-carbon hydrogen to a level of suitable market impact. The European support will continue through Horizon Europe and other financial tools. We'll also develop a legislative framework to provide security and confidence among investors. So we are reviewing the Renewable Energy Directive, the CO2 emission performance standards for cars and vans, the Energy Taxation Directive, the Alternative Fuels Infrastructure Directive, and the TEN-T guidelines. We expect that European member states will seize the opportunities linked to overall recovery process to finance a sustainable fuel transition. The recent discovery of gas reserves in Romania's Black Sea also represents an opportunity, not least to reinforce the EU's energy security. And we are counting on the industry to leverage the investment to overcome existing production barriers. We also need to see the cost of low carbon hydrogen and renewable gases coming down. These are some of the actions I believe we need to push ahead if we want to see gas featuring in the EU's future transport energy mix. Other actions will ensure the green credentials of gas. Methane emissions from the whole natural gas supply chain must fall. Vehicle manufacturers must significantly reduce or eliminate tailpipe emissions of ultrafine particulate matter. Once the technologies are market ready, they will compete under a common policy framework that prioritizes emission reductions. This is how your industry can help deliver on the European Green Deal. I wish you an interesting and constructive debate, and we are counting very much on you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And indeed, I was very happy to see that you noted also the growth of the possibility of LNG in shipping. Today, Eurogas launched one of its videos about Wärtsilä, a good European company that's developing the engine technology, and also look to ammonia and hydrogen for the future, to pick up on your points about the hydrogen strategy and the direction that's being set. So indeed, good luck with the work indeed on the sustainable mobility package. And we're very happy to have had you with us today. So thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, we will keep in touch, I'm sure, as we go forward. Our next keynote speaker is indeed Nicolae Havrilet, who is the State Secretary of the Ministry for the Economy, Energy and Business of Romania, indeed the host country for our conference today. So, Nicolae, we're very happy to have you with us, and we are looking forward to hearing your views on how Romania, in particular, can support the delivery of the European Green Deal. The floor is yours.
Dear all, allow me to address my thanks to Eurogas and ACUE for having me as a speaker in today's event on behalf of Mr. Virgil Popescu, Minister of Economy, Energy and Business Environment of Romania. In my intervention, I would like to highlight a number of areas that we need to focus in order to engage the process of energy transition so that the Central and Eastern Europe can face the challenges but also benefit from the opportunities raised by the Green Deal, especially given the unprecedented dynamics of the energy sector across Europe. As we see it, the European Green Deal represents a significant change of the economic and social models we have become accustomed to that will shape, without any doubt, the major directions of investment and economic growth in the European Union. The implementation of the Green Deal will require long-term efforts, long-term measures, and a great deal of commitment. Together with the digital agenda, the Green Deal will be at the heart of the Union's future actions in the coming years. However, despite the difficulties brought by 2020, the recent transformations represent an important opportunity for us all, a process which needs to be addressed at European level through a flexible approach. In our view, for the Central and Eastern European region, a region with huge potential, but in the same time, a region that still relies on fossil fuels to some extent. The transformation of the energy sector will certainly involve significant volumes of investment across the technology chain, from energy production to smart transmission and distribution networks, as well as the implementation of new market model based on clean and flexible energy capacities. More than ever, attracting investment will be essential for the region in the aim to develop new capacities for low carbon energy production that involve new gases, hydrogen, renewables. Second, the Central and Eastern region needs to optimize its energy infrastructure in order to take over new energy carriers such as hydrogen and renewable gases. The transmission and distribution networks should be technically adapted to take over injection of renewable gases. Third, we should also consider better regulation and practices to ensure that market conditions will facilitate the energy system integration in the new context. We believe this represents an essential pillar to facilitate and accelerate the recovery of the energy system. I have to highlight also the potential that cross-border projects have in the enhancement of the regional energy security, especially in renewables, where best practices can be shared and prospect for new cooperation could be established between member states. Another two focus area to be taken into consideration in the joint efforts to deliver a Green Deal and the climate objectives of the Union are the production of the offshore renewables and building renovation. If you ask me which will be the transition fuel, I would say naturally natural gas, an essential bridge fuel. That has an important role to play alongside the renewable energy sources in the transition process. Maintaining natural gas as part of the transition will facilitate the replacement of solid fossil fuels while curtailing in the same time the emissions. Not only for Romania, but for many member states of the Central and Eastern European region, natural gas brings a significant contribution to the national energy security. With regard to my country, natural gas will play an important role in replacing the energy produced out of heavily pollutant fossil fuels, especially coal. At regional level, our focus should be on deploying consistent efforts to develop low carbon, economically viable technologies, high efficiency technologies that will be able to provide the final consumers with a lower carbon emissions energy mix. To sum up, the energy transition should offer out region opportunities for economic growth, job creation, and technological development. Therefore, it is important to establish a flexible framework that allows member states to identify the most effective way to transform their economies, while they have to enjoy the support and acceptance of their citizens. Dear all, with this point, my intervention came to an end. I wish everyone insightful discussions today, and thank you once again to Eurogas.
Thank you, State Secretary. And indeed, thank you for highlighting a lot of the good ideas, the good recommendations that we need to take forward the energy transition, whilst also taking into account the specificities of member states. And I was particularly pleased about the points you were making about the use of natural gas, indeed, also as a transition away from more polluting fuels. I think this is something that needs to be taken into consideration much more broadly in the political discussion, especially here in Brussels. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure to have you.
Bye.
And our final keynote, high-level keynote speaker is Cristian Silviu Bușoi. He is the chair of the Industry and Energy Committee in the European Parliament. And it is a great pleasure to have you with us, and nice to see you again, Cristian. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And we'd be very interested to hear the European Parliament's point of view on the role of Central and Eastern Europe in the Green Deal and the energy transition. The floor is yours. You are on mute.
Thank you so much, and I'm happy and honored to be part of this very important high-level event. I was also very happy to hear the interventions of the president of Eurogas, Mr. Sorkay, the president of ACUE and ENGIE Romania, Monsieur Eric Stab, with whom I exchange very often opinions on energy transition, and also Adina Vălean, our Commissioner for Transport, which was before the President of Industry, Research and Energy Committee that I'm chairing now, and of course one of the best experts that Romania has, Mr. Havrileț. I believe that we should take this momentum and work together on the opportunities and challenges for Romania and Central East European countries in the energy transition, proposed to deliver on the Union's climate ambitions both for 2030 and 2050. Making the necessary changes in the energy sector in order to achieve the 2030 target, one that should be feasible and economically beneficial as well, and the discussions are not over yet, and I believe that the European Parliament is a little bit too over-enthusiastic on the 2030 target. And also, in order to reach climate neutrality by 2050, all this will be extremely challenging, and in particular for those member states that are still highly dependent on fossil fuels. These structural changes needed in the energy sector will have important social and economic consequences. The Union is fully committed to the ambition of climate neutrality by 2050 and tackling climate change, and of course the European Parliament is backing up the efforts, and us as an Industry and Energy Committee are also very involved to make this objective coming to life. But to reach our climate ambitions, we need to back the green transition that we are all expecting to happen soon with a consistent and horizontal energy policy. It is also imperative that we see environmental policies and the ones in the field of energy reinforcing each other and not as one subservient to the other, as I had the chance to state before. And we, the policymakers, need to ensure consistency across policies. Streamline Green Deal ambitions, of course, but with a feasible transition, leaving no region behind, taking into account also the different starting points of member states compared to others, ensuring further the resilience of the energy system and the security of energy supply, aiming at energy autonomy in the Union, and of course we should not forget about citizens, while keeping affordable costs for the end users. Gas is a feasible solution to reach the 2030 target for many member states, especially for Romania and other Central and East European countries where coal is still very much present. It is a reality that gas will contribute to facilitate the energy transition of those territories and sectors highly dependent on fossil fuels or greenhouse gas-intensive industrial processes. Moreover, investing now in gas is investing also in gas infrastructure that will serve for the future as well. For example, for renewable sources of energy, such as hydrogen. The very same gas infrastructure of today or for tomorrow can be used for transporting biogas and hydrogen in a few years, representing a low-cost, feasible solution in the process of energy transition and a secure roadmap to diversification, considering the fact that high initial capital cost of new pipeline construction constitutes at the moment a major barrier to expanding the infrastructure across the EU. During the transition phase, gas pipelines and interconnections play an important role to ensuring energy security supply, affordability, as I mentioned, and is very important, and also sustainability. As regards the 10-year revision proposed for this winter, priority corridors and areas, as well as eligible criteria, of course, should follow the evolution of the energy system and maintain their consistency with the Union policy priorities, in particular in the context of the long-term decarbonization pathway. Adequate infrastructure deployment and energy efficiency policies should be used in a complementary way to help reach the Union objectives and targets. This requires integrated and mainstreamed actions with a focus on research and innovation and development, maintaining the security of energy supply while diversifying sources. We need to enhance synergies between the MFF, namely Connecting Europe Facility at TEN-E, Green Deal, the Recovery Fund and other instruments, such as Just Transition Fund, or of course, Horizon Europe, to streamline the green recovery as a win-win strategy for all, and to ensure that no region is left behind. The Just Transition Fund will be of particular importance for our country and some of the Central and East European countries, given that the rationale of the fund is to help in their energy transition, the regions which are now facing the biggest challenges because of their dependence on fossil fuels. And of course, once again, gas should be the fuel of transition, and we need gas in order to achieve our final goals. Thank you so much, and a lot of success in this prestigious event.
Thank you very much, Christian. And indeed, I'm very happy that you also picked out the importance of the transition, also to keep delivering affordable fuels to people to keep warm and also for their homes. And I think that's a really important part that we must take into consideration delivering a just transition. So I thank you very much for those good words and also for recognising the importance that we give to natural gas in delivering the transition. Thank you very much, the Chair. Very nice to see you again, and we look forward to maintaining good contact with you. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Well, we've had some very interesting opening speeches that have touched on all of the issues that we need to look at today, that all of these things that are very important, and to understand the role that Central and Eastern Europe will play in delivering the Green Deal, and indeed the fuels and the technologies that we will need to get there. We've heard about blue hydrogen, we've heard about biomethane and biogas, we've heard about hydrogen in general. There are many, many opportunities, but of course there is also natural gas. And today, natural gas is delivering indeed a very affordable, secure form of energy to the people of Central and Eastern Europe, and of course beyond that, across all of Europe. But the next panel will look at the gas market and how the regional gas market is performing. And of course the gas market has been identified as one of the most successful some of the successful tools that has been put forward by the European Union delivering affordable fuel to the people of Europe. And I'm delighted to say that I'm going to be joined by Lenka Kovačková from the Czech Gas Association. She's the executive director there. And Lenka, we've really been very happy to come and see you in Prague this year. It's great to see you, and thanks so much for coming today to be the moderator. And I'm really looking forward to your panel and hearing the insights. And so I'm going to hand over to you and say good luck with the panel. Really looking forward to hearing the points of view, and I hope the next year I get to meet you again in person. So over to you, Lenka.
Well, thank you, James. Greetings from Prague. We have first snow today, so it would be really nice if you could be here. But let me thank you that it's really an honor for me to be able to be a moderator of this panel. And I'm more than pleased because this is the first panel on the conference that I have ever seen that is composing only of women, but not just average women, but I would say top professionals and experts of women. And we will have today with me Jane Amenholt from European Commission from DG Energy, Corina Popescu from Transelectrica, the CEO of Transelectrica. We will have Christina Pruma, who is a member of the Romanian Parliament, and Michaela Toder, who is head of strategy of Romgas SA. as you have already heard, and I'm sure that you have already checked on the web pages of the conference, all of the today panelists are really great experts, and please do not hesitate to post questions to all of our panelists. They would be really more than pleased to answer your questions. You have for that the Q&A box on your screen, so please do not hesitate and post questions that you wish. I will pick the questions later on in our discussions. Ladies, you have all heard that there are many challenges ahead of gas and its future. We know that natural gas, the natural gas has a future, imminent huge value added for partial decarbonization. Especially what was highlighted was the potential for coal to gas switch in centralized heating systems and its benefits for the environment. We have heard that there is still a potential for gas and gaseous fuels even in the future of the gas transport. But we have also heard that there are many challenges ahead of us that will come with greening of gas and the gradual decarbonization of gas. What I was also really pleased to hear was that the importance of international cooperation and integration of regional gas markets is the key in order to promote a future sustainable and let's say cost-effective future of the European energy systems. So at the beginning, I would like to pass the floors to all of our panelists for let's say 5 to 10 minutes to present their future vision of the regional gas markets. What is the state of the play right now, and what will be the future for us? What's your visions? First of all, let me pass the floor to Jane Amelholt, who is Deputy Head of Unit at DG Energy, and she is in charge of networks and regional initiatives. Yet she has already a vast experience from the various posts in European Commission, including negotiations with Russia, Eastern Partnership, and energy and industrial issues, and environment and climate. So, Ms. Amenholt, the floor is yours.
Sorry, no, I think you hear me. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm pleased here to present you the views of the European Commission. As already mentioned, you still have a lot of coal in Central and Eastern Europe, so gas is a good transition fuel towards full decarbonization. But of course, well, we are looking a lot in this region, but of course also about decarbonization of gas. And also I will present you, what we think, how we can work more on regional gas market. So the tools we have at the European level, I mean, on first of all, on gas infrastructure, we are working with the 10E regulation. So we are selecting project PCIs and financing instruments. It was CEF was already mentioned, but of course we coordinate with other instruments like the Just Transition Fund, the Modernization Fund, now the new Recovery and Resilience Fund. And our main framework on regional cooperation is CEEC, so it's a high-level group. And in the past years, I mean, this group has been concentrating a lot from the gas perspective on security of supply. And I would say now that we have a situation where most of the priority infrastructure projects for gas have been completed or are in the course of completion. So we have progressed a lot on this. We are looking on infrastructure in the sector, but also on markets. So the issue of developing the gas market at national, but also at regional level is very important for us. So here I think we have already started discussing on gas market merger options in the region at technical level. So it's something we have started with the different actors in the region. But I think this, I mean, so I wanted to have the perspective here on natural gas. Also, it could be also useful, I think, if we think about maybe the future with low carbon gas like biogas or hydrogen. So I think it would be also something we should integrate in this market merger in the region. And I mean, well, we had the ministerial meeting of the CEEC group on the 2nd of October. So it was not live, but we did it online. But now, after this, I think our goal is to start again the technical discussions in the group. And this merger of gas market merger will certainly be a topic that we want to pick up under the gas group that we have. And I think, well, ideas I'm throwing here and that should be discussed with the stakeholders. I think we should try to support analysis and exchange of the potential for regional market. I know that we've seen already some platform from TSO for bidding at the regional level. So I think it's something we should also explore. And also, I think in this context, so I want to stress this again. We should look at the possibilities we have also for integrating new gas in terms of infrastructure, but also of markets. So yeah, I would stop here for my intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. We already do have a first question. I'm not going to use it right now, but just to say that the Q&A box is working effectively and you can raise other questions. Once again, Jane, thank you for your contribution. And now I will give the floor to Giorgiota Corina Popescu, who is herself really renowned expert both in the field of electricity and of natural gas. Right now, she holds the position of the CEO of Electrica, but she has in the past held important positions in E.ON Romania Group or in OMV Group. And she was also a state secretary within the Ministry of Energy in the past. So, Corina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and also CEO of Transelectrica, because you introduced me as the CEO of Transelectrica. So thank you very much for the invitation. I am honored to be part of this panel and to start also to speak in this panel regarding gas. Actually, my intervention will be link based on my actual position, but if you will be questioned regarding Transelectrica, TSO, and other things that are linked with power market and also gas market, I am here to give my answer regarding this. So Electrica, it is a group actually with big experience on the power side, with on distribution, supply, and starting with this year also on production. And our strategy is to enter more in deep in the next future in renewable production, but not only, because we need solutions to balance this renewable production. So actually, from my perspective, it's clear which will be the direction at Europe level, and also Romania committed and assume already the ambitious target on renewable and decarbonization. And I think for the transition in Romania, the solution will be the gas. These are the reasons that we start as a company to look also more deep on the gas market. So from my actual perspective, in order to speak about liberalization of the market, it's more important to have a functioning wholesale market, and also to increase the interconnectivity between the countries. So all the big project, the PCI project regarding the interconnectivity between the country will increase the market liberalization also on the gas side. Starting with this year, with 1st of July, Romania already committed and assume that we liberalize the retail price for gas customer. And I suppose that also 1st of January 2021, we'll have also the liberalization on the power market. And this time, I think the solution that was chosen is the correct one, because we speak about full liberalization, the wholesale and retail. In the past, we have some bad experience in our country when we believe that if you declare that the price will be liberalized on retail market, but we keep it some control on wholesale market, the process will work. Was not. So our experience was wrong in this direction. And I'm think now Romania already proved that choose the correct direction. And I believe that all the transposition of the directive on the power side, on renewables, in the Romanian legislation will be done as soon as possible in order to have aligned all the Romanian legislation with the legislation approved at Europe level. I think it is now, and when we speak about our ambitious target regarding decarbonization, a strong link between these two markets, power and gas. And I think all the processes that are implemented in one market have a huge impact on the second one. And we need to look to the system as an ensemble, gas plus power or other solution, because we already speak about hydrogen. And I think also Romania will need in the near future a strategy for hydrogen in order to invest smart in developing the infrastructure for this. And you need to have all those aligned. They are like a small piece of puzzle. And in order to obtain I heard in the first part of the panel that are very important, the security of supply, are very important, the sustainability of the price for the citizen. I think if we'll succeed to align all those strategies, we'll succeed us as a country to fulfill all our obligation in front of Europe, and also to protect and to have better services provided to our customer. Thank you very much. Lenka, and if there are questions, I'm here and I can answer to all the questions.
Thank you very much, Corina, for highlighting the imminent task. At least the takeaway I have is definitely a market liberalization that has to go hand in hand with increasing interconnectivity among the individual gas markets in the CEE region. And what you have raised, I would say, is a pressing issue for all of us in the future, is to set up a proper model for a future sector coupling between electricity and natural gas sectors, blending and I would say power to gas technologies that would definitely come into the markets in the upcoming years. So thank you very much. Surely there are already the questions, so we will have the discussion later on. And now I would pass the floor to Cristina Prună, who is a member of the Romanian Parliament. She serves as a member of the Industries and Services Committee and European Affairs Committee, but she's very much engaged with all the actions that are related to energy topics, from coal to natural gas and renewable energy, a strong promoter of clean energy and green transition, but also is addressing the pressing issue that we in the whole CEE region have to face, and that is the just transition for people living in coal-dependent mono-industrial regions. So please, Cristina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Lenka, and good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be a speaker in this panel. Yes, we are living very challenging times. And the Green Deal, especially, I think, creates challenges for the gas sector, but I also believe that these challenges could be transformed into opportunities, and we heard all the previous speakers and the commissioner who stated this, and I also think that we can collaborate to seize these opportunities. So yes, natural gas is a transition fuel, especially for us in Romania, but also for Central and Eastern European countries. And even if there are debates right now in Brussels about the funding and the use of natural gas, I believe that there should be really a bridge between the national strategic interests and the European interests, and we should take into consideration all the specificities of each countries and regions in Europe. For example, Romania stated very clearly in its national energy and climate plan that natural gas is key to reducing CO2 emissions, but also for economic development and energy security, security of the supply. We heard also earlier mentioned this, and also speaking about Brussels, last year under the Romanian presidency, we managed to close a very complicated, let's say, and complex dossier, and I speak here about the Gas Directive. And one of its objectives was to have a very diverse mix of gas sources in Europe. On the other hand, we have built an infrastructure, and the EU invested quite heavily during the Juncker's Commission to build new pipelines to diversify this gas imports and to connect the Central and the Eastern European market. And I think we should really use this infrastructure to achieve the climate goals, the climate neutrality by 2050. Also here, I want to mention the Brewa Pipeline, which was the phase one was recently finalized, and it's a very important piece of infrastructure if we look at the Southeast European region. Also, there's the IGB, the Greece-Bulgaria interconnector that is also very close to be finalized, so that we can bring new sources of gas here in the eastern and central part of Europe. And also these two projects were financed with European money, and they should be used in the interest of this region. Another thing I want to state, because the Black Sea project offshore gas was mentioned earlier, I think this infrastructure that we have here in Eastern Europe is even more important in the absence of this project that didn't start yet. So Brewa becomes an important project, as well as cross-border collaboration and interconnection to have a connected market and a liquid and competitive market. On the other side, if we look from west to east, we must also look carefully at our Hungarian partners and what they are doing. And I really hope that they will comply with the 2016 memorandum and finalize the interconnection with Hungary and then with Austria, because as I said, competition is very important here, and how this market will look like in the coming years to be able to achieve this energy transition with the help of natural gas. Of course, the internal market should become even more competitive, and Corina mentioned the liberalization of the market. For sure, there are steps that we've done in the past, and we are going to do in the future. Just to conclude, I do believe that natural gas it isn't just an enabler to climate neutrality, but for sure it has some other key roles, such as this balance of energy production, ensuring continuous flow when the intermittent renewable sources cannot produce electricity. Also, if we look forward at in the future, right, natural gas can be a source for blue hydrogen, of course, together with developing carbon capture and technology, and also because we also talked about the transition. I believe that we should take into account the technological specificities and natural resources available in each state, and the funding that is available at European level should basically also include the natural gas project, but the funding of them, I mean, but of course they're not enough, and we should really look how we can reduce this technological gap and ensure this energy transition. I will stop here, and of course, if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina. I don't think it will be at the end. It will be over the course of today's panel. You have highlighted and made it more concrete of what are the current projects for interconnectivity within the region, not only Romania, but also in the more distant neighborhood, to really finalize the integration, at least physical integration of the gas markets within the CEE region. That's also one of the questions from the audience, to be more concrete. And I think that for ladies, at least that's my experience from the meeting, it's never a problem to be really precise and concrete and be more down to earth. So we will definitely touch that. And I would really like to echo what you have mentioned at the beginning of your speech, and that is that no matter what we are doing on the EU level, the new policies, funding instruments and regulations should really take into account national specificities and regional specificities when it comes to the speed and progress and options for gradual decarbonization. And now maybe getting even more to concrete numbers, I will give floor to Michaela Todler, who is the Director of Strategy, International Relations and EU Funds Department at CNG and Romgas. And maybe if we could hear some visions, plans you have, for example, for greening of gas, for hydrogen injections, the visions of the potential for biomethane injections in the Romanian gas market, I think that would be really appreciated well from the audience that is listening to us and watching us. So the floor is yours, Michaela.
Thank you very much for inviting our company. For us, let's say we feel a little bit like Cinderella these days, because we as gas producer are facing special challenges in the context of the European agenda, but also in the context of the pandemics that hit and affected a little bit the markets that we are now playing in. As far as the gas production sector in Romania is concerned, we are paying attention at these days, especially to research, development, and innovation. It is very clear and is based on the lessons that I hope that everybody has learned from the transition from coal and closing of coal production, especially in Romania, that closing directly it's not a solution. So we need a period to adjust and to adapt. For that, we are looking into hydrogen, as you clearly mentioned, and also we intend to diversify, let's say, our business, to have a higher transformation of the raw product, a higher transformation of gas, to solidify, let's say, our role on the production of energy with these new, let's say, solutions that are still not commercially available, like hydrogen, but we are keen on that. This is why in our investment strategy, we have made it very clear that we want to try and test in a pilot the production of energy from gas together with some injection of hydrogen. It's a project in the very first stages, let's say, as it's a research project. But we truly believe that this would be a solution for having a greener gas in the market, and also to ensure the energy security in Romania. We understand and everybody agrees that investment in renewables and producing energy from renewables, it's a priority. Yet we all have to acknowledge that renewables can stand alone. At this moment, as the scientific path it's proving, renewables still need some fuel behind to ensure the stability of the market, and this can be provided by gas. Also, we should be paying attention to what the producer of equipment are doing these days, and the innovation that they are bringing into the market, to see that we have new equipment that can support the system and the process of producing energy with very sustainable, let's say, environment indicators. I don't want to underline specific producers, but we have seen the evolution of equipment. We have new investments done in Romania with high energy efficiency, and I think that we all should be paying attention. This is why our goal in the next future is to diversify, to start investing in research and innovation in an industry that it's somehow incremental. It's an old industry and we need a push. And we very much welcome the position that the European Commission has in supporting hydrogen, supporting research, development and innovation, and hopefully the state aid framework that it's now in place will also will be extended also, especially in the regions that are facing transition from coal, because there the market gap is big. It's very difficult for companies to invest in regions that face big problems in terms of available workforce and competitiveness. And since in general we are big companies, the state aid framework that now it's in place due to the pandemics should serve as a lesson, especially I repeat, in the investment done in regions that are going to exit from and to face the transition from coal. So we are ready. We are following closely. Hopefully, we will find the investment priorities at European level, but also at national level that will satisfy our needs. and we are ready to make the next step in order to become a real green fuel for the future of Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michaela, very much for your contribution and for highlighting the importance of R&D projects. And we are already moving to the questions, and maybe I will raise the first question towards the European Commission. Many of us are already having research and want to test pilot project on hydrogen injections into the grids, but especially in the countries that are less renewable rich, so to say, and with the currently relatively high costs of electrolyzers, these pilot projects tend to be really of the primary interests of many, let's say, grid operators. So do you envisage on behalf of the European Commission that there would be some kind of regulatory sandbox established that would enable these pilot projects to be realized? And then also a question with regard to the potential of either biomethane, but especially hydrogen injections. We've heard on numerous occasions that we are gonna increase the connectivity between the regions, but should the grids be already, interconnectors be hydrogen ready? And is gonna European Commission somehow set minimum or maximum standards for hydrogen blending? Or do you envisage, and also that's the question from the audience, where do you, for example, see the potential for hydrogen? This is not only for the European Commission, but for all of you ladies. Do you see it being blended into the traditional natural gas grids, or let's see, do you perceive it being used primarily at the first phase in the transport in a specifically purpose hydrogen valleys? So first to Jane and then to all of you ladies.
Sorry, I always forget to unmute. So thank you for your question. So I will try to reply. Okay, so your question is mainly on hydrogen and how to develop hydrogen in the EU. I will first go on the infrastructure side and then on the regulatory side, if you don't mind. On the infrastructure side, I think you're right. It's quite a difficult project, risky, expensive. We have to scale it up because on these electrolyzers, because we haven't done it yet. So, we have currently the 10-year revision. So we are looking into this in this context also, how to support that kind of project, and not only the electrolyzers, because you touched upon the making the gas network ready for hydrogen, for blending, or for full hydrogen. So this is where we're also looking into this, in the framework of the 10-year revision. I would say also for the infrastructure, okay, you also have other support. We spoke about the EU funds. So you have innovation fund. The modernization fund could also use for that kind of project. Recovery fund, it's also for the member states and for the companies in the member states, especially in Central and Eastern Europe, to come up with some project they would like to see finance. So we have quite some instruments, so we really need to use them the best way possible. And now I come back to your question on the regulatory sandbox, because it's not only, all these projects is not only about technology and maybe financing, it's also regulatory framework, because of course, depending on whether you can apply the cost to the regulated market or to have it as a regulated assets, it makes a project easier commercially or not. I mean, this is still in discussion. This is not. There's no real decision. And I would say what we will have now next year is, I think we don't want to call it the review of the Gas Directive. It will be more a gas decarbonization package, so something, but it's in the end, it will be also looking at the regulatory framework for gas, including hydrogen. So I guess that kind of project will also be touched upon in this framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I will give the floor to, I think, maybe also to Michaela Toder and Corina Popescu. Maybe there is also one question from the audience that is interlinked with it, and that is, how does the fact that the EU has decided to no longer fund natural gas projects affects the future of natural gas in the CEE region? So how do you and your companies perceive this new strategy of the European Commission, of the European funding? What will be the impact on your businesses?
I would try to intervene before Corina, and then I'll let her to finish it up, let's say, to top it up. As already mentioned by Jane, at this moment, it is somehow, even for us, a little bit unclear how the gas market will respond to the new challenges that are now in front of us due to the Green Deal package, Just Transition Fund that somehow gives some space to investment in maybe not in gas production, but in using gas as a fuel for cogeneration projects or even CCGTs with high efficiency. So also the modernization fund. We shouldn't forget the modernization fund that, at least for Romania, it's one of the most important instruments in ensuring this transition and supporting energy efficiency projects. So we are a little bit optimistic on one side, yet we are looking very carefully to the messages that we are receiving. And I think that coming back to the regulatory framework and also the discussion framework that it's now all over Europe, what we need as investors, let's say in gas, we need a little bit of let's say of predictability and not giving messages that somehow can distort the market. It is very clear that nobody has at this moment the solution to give up on gas for good and in 5 years. We do not have the research results in order to have the hydrogen or the biogases that would be able to fully replace. It is very clear that by now the renewables cannot play a single role in producing energy. So I think that it's still market for the gas if we are paying attention to the emissions, if we are paying attention to the new technologies and to the high efficiency technologies that are now available on the market, and probably in the next, I believe, 3 to 4 years, new technologies will emerge. But as I said, we need a little bit of stability in the market, because most of us are listed on the stock exchange. We have big investments. We are ready to support the economies, especially in this climate of the pandemics, where we have seen that the production chains and the offer and the request in the market, it's completely disturbed. Everybody's waiting for 2021 to see how the economies will manage to revive from this the health issue that we have and that affected the economies in a manner that not even the financial crisis in 2008 has done it. So we believe that there is market for us. We are ready to invest. We are ready to use the instruments that we have available, and especially, as I said, the modernization fund. I think it's the main instrument, and also the Just Transition Fund. And I'm reverting to a project that is very close to our company, and it's something that we are going to do it for sure. We have a combined cycle power plant that we want to build in Mintia. It's in the core of the Jiu Valley. It's one of the regions that was hit tremendously from socio and economically from the transition from coal, and the people there and the businesses there really need energy, as the entire western part of Romania. We are ready to invest there. It's not easy. It's a project that we have been working for the last 3 years. We propose there the best available technologies according to European standards, so with low effects on the environment, and there we should be receiving support in order to put the money and the investment and the effort in order to produce there and to revive a region that was hit extremely hard for the last 20 years. So I think that we have market. We are ready also to invest in research. I think it's risky, and I'm very happy that European Commission recognized this type of risks that innovation and research and innovation is bringing for the private investors. We hope that the regulatory framework will recognize the risk and will recognize some of the costs, even if we are in a liberalized market, and we are ready to invest. And we truly believe that there is a market for the gas in the future if we are playing it wisely.
Thank you, Michaela. And Corina, do you want to add some concrete project?
Yeah, so I cannot speak about a concrete project. We are a listed company, and I cannot speak about concrete project. I can speak only about our strategy, and this is a public document, and I can share. We are looking also for some gas power plant in order to balance our ambition on the renewables, but maybe not CCGT, as Mihaela mentioned. There are other new technology, OSGP, more fast power plant using gas. And as I already mentioned, I think gas is a solution for transition period in Romania. I know, and we are also looking and monitorize what are the position at Europe level regarding financing the gas project. And yeah, we'll have a decision based on the future development of the transition, and also if will be commercial feasible. This is for us as a listed company a priority. Yeah, regarding hydrogen, I can also want to add something, Lenka, if you allow me. I think for us as a country will be okay if we start to have a strategy regarding hydrogen at country level, because starting to invest in different type of hydrogen, I think it's a possibility on multiple objectives: transportation, storage, link with renewables, could have multiple use project. I think it will be better to establish some targets to look which will be the strategy for Romania in the next 10 years, and to put the fingers on the smarter project that can help us to reinforce our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. There's also a question about some other parts of Europe, Central and Eastern Europe. Just on behalf of the Czech Republic or maybe even Slovakia, the focus is already on biomethane, especially advanced biomethane, when we have a vision, or the government has the vision, that full consumption of gaseous fuels in the transport till 2030 could be covered by advanced biomethane. When it comes to hydrogen, as already I have indicated, the trouble is that you really need a regulatory sandbox that would somehow loosen the strict requirements for unbundling so that the trial projects can go on, and both our TSOs and our DSOs are undergoing research projects on the material quality and corrosion so that we are ready for blending. So far, 2% for blending are perceived as acceptable for the whole gas value chain. For the further increased levels, especially for valves, testing for corrosion has to be done, and also for the meters, and probably, and that's also the question whether this is going to be funded by the European fund, so we would welcome it. But one of the major obstacles for biomethane and biomethane injections into the grid is not the standards. Of course, this is easy, but what is really needed is support schemes, introduce operational support scheme. And there was a question from the audience whether there are plans for concrete support of biomethane or for the future for the hydrogen projects in Romania. So I think, Christina, it was a question directly for you, so please feel free to answer that.
Yes, thank you very much for this question. Of course, we need to look at the future and we need to see what are the trends on the market. I don't think that any politician in Romania or in Brussels can predict the future in terms of hydrogen or other solutions. I think this should come from the market and from the companies that are investing in new projects, that are looking from a technical perspective, what is feasible, what is not feasible, what is and at which cost, because the costs basically will be seen in the price that the consumer will pay. What we can do on the legislative side is to make sure that we have predictable and stable environment for these companies to invest. And then on the other hand, that this transition has enough resources. And here I look mostly at the European money. We mentioned Just Transition, also the recovery and resilience plans, and the modernization fund. And I think there should be enough resources for the companies to go through this transition. Then in terms of support schemes, of course, there should be a discussion and see how feasible these projects are. I've seen it even in the European hydrogen strategy that green hydrogen will be, let's say, feasible mostly after 2030. We don't have right now clear projects that show that is effective. We can look also at blue hydrogen, but again, I think there should be more a discussion with the relevant actors, with the companies on the market, and see where can we go and what are the next steps in order to find alternatives to gas and coal and basically all these fuels.
Thank you, Christina. Hydrogen is a big unknown, but as far as I have seen the strategies, the majority of the states that have already released them do not envisage their self-sufficiency, especially in production of green hydrogen. For example, in Germany, not even in the longer term future. And that raises a question: when are we going to bring the hydrogen, especially green hydrogen, from which might be our neighboring countries? And one of the questions from the audience is, how are we going to involve our neighboring countries like Ukraine, Moldova, Serbia into the future the gas market integration, regional gas market integration, but in a way that is ready for the new decarbonized, low carbon and green gases. So who is going to take the floor? Maybe does a European Commission have an opinion on it? And if so, maybe a really short and quick question also to Jane, when will be the 10E regulation revision outcomes published? So Jane, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Yes, so on your first question, from where the green hydrogen will come from, yes, I mean, of course, I mean, with the ambition we have, it will be difficult to scale it up at this level, at this speed. We are also looking into imports, but I think we should be careful with that because we should not become dependent again, you know, like on another fuel. So I think here we should really look at this. I mean, your question on Ukraine, Moldova, Serbia, I mean, these countries are very much, well, all of them are part of this CEEC group I mentioned. So they are very much involved in our work. Also, we try to take them on board on the Green Deal. So I think to also have this energy transition in their economy. So I think the goal is really that we are at the same. Well, I know they are a little bit behind, yeah. So we need to take them on board, and for this we have quite some policy framework. The goal is really to take them on board. And in the end, yeah, to integrate the markets and the, yeah, so that's well, and the regulation, that's or the regulatory aspect of the market, infrastructure and regulatory aspects. So I think that's the goal. On 10E, yes, I mentioned the revision, so we should be able to have a Commission proposal by the end of the year, and then well, the procedure. It will be discussed by member states and European Parliament, and well, our goal is to have mid of next year somewhere the final proposal. And just maybe for information, because now we started the process, we work with this list of projects of common interest. So we start the process for the 5th PCI list with submissions until the 7th of January. And here it will be according to the old 10, if I can call it. And then probably the 6th PCI list will be already according to the new 10. Yeah, that's the sequencing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. There is a question from the audience that's addressing potential for wider regional cooperation, and whether any one of you of any potential projects, regional projects that would be devoted to renewable and low carbon gases. I see the faces showing surprise, so I'm not quite sure.
I can have just one sentence. I don't want to speak all the time, but no, I think it's difficult. That's what we are looking for now from regional project, because at national level, it's already difficult, I understand, but and we have, maybe just to mention also, we have a new window for CEF. So CEF, normally it's transmission or infrastructures, energy transmission infrastructure, but we will have a new window from next year on renewable. So we are really looking for cross-border renewable project, and it would be very nice if we could find project in this region. So please, send us your project. But we will look in the CEEC group, as I mentioned, so we will be proactive on that. Thank you.
So any further recommendations? Any known projects everybody can apply for? Oh, I think Corina is unmuted, if I'm not correct.
So there are some projects, and in the past I remember that Romania discussed about a cooperation between Romania and Holland regarding a jointly project on renewables. But what I think is necessary for this part of Europe, there are a storage project which can balance the renewables project. I think this is a project that are necessary for this part of Europe, because all the country invest in renewable, in increasing the production, but we need to find solution to balance this renewable production. Thank you.
Thank you, Corina. And I would echo what you have just said. All the analysis show us that with increasing share of renewables, what we will really need is definitely massive seasonal storage. And the seasonal storage, for that, we don't have that many options that are technologically available, not even economically available right now. And power to gas, either hydrogen or with further methanization, synthetic biomethane are some of the options how to best accumulate the energy and transport it over long distances to the places that it will need it. And definitely, at least from our Central European point of view, I think there are many hopes from the sector to the European strategy, so that with fine-tuning domestic, national, individual solutions, we don't impose any further market barriers for the future. So as Jane, you said that there is not going to be a fourth gas market package, but rather gas decarbonization package. I think there is a lot of hope from all the sector that this is going to be definitely addressed, so that we have some hints on where to go on. And what we would also really look forward is also some backup for it in the state aid guidelines, which, and also maybe taxonomy, which are right now quite gas unfriendly, if I can say it in this way. So definitely this is a question that has to be addressed somehow. And we all know that so far it is not the technology that would be really, let's say, cost ready, cost efficient. So really there are really hopes for the gas decarbonization package, or how we are going to call it in the upcoming months, that these questions are going to be addressed. I'm right now looking through the list of questions on the Q&A box, but I have a feeling or a suspicion that we have tried to address all the questions that are there, not in the order that they were listed. But if there are no further questions, then ladies, please let me thank you a lot for your engagement, for your insights, and for your contributions. And I hope that our participants would appreciate the feedback that you have given and the answers you have given to their questions. So thank you very much once again, and wishing you all a really successful continuation of the conference. And I think, James, it's up to you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Lenka. That's great. It was a great opening panel, really interesting discussion on the gas market, and of course all the challenges that are being faced and what's going to come up. And I'm glad that the people in your panel definitely couch that in terms of challenge and opportunity. So we really can see that there is going to be some good progression and developments in the way the gas markets are operating in the region. And Lenka, I must say thank you to you as well. I mean, your professionalism never fails to impress me. It's great to have you with us, really one of our best moderators. So really thank you very much for taking us through that panel, touching on all the key issues, and really hearing a very good, diverse set of opinions on what we need to do and what we can expect coming out of the European Commission as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lenka. It's been a great pleasure to see you. And I said, I hope next year, when the pandemic is perhaps more under control, we will get the chance to visit you in Prague. And I hope also all the panelists in Bucharest, I hope that we're able to see you all again very soon. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
for that very
James.
good
I'm
first
blushing.
panel. We are coming up to the half-time break. There will be a 10-minute pause through till just before 10 to 5 in Brussels time. And during that time, we will be having a look at a video, which will be a compilation of all the different things that Eurogas has been up to this year. It's a very good video. It lasts about 7 minutes. So please make yourself a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, grab a slice of cake, something to eat. Watch the video and join us again in about 10 minutes when we'll be starting and looking again at the opportunities that there are for the development of new gases in Central and Eastern Europe. Thank you again to all of the keynote speakers and to Lenka and the panelists. It's been a great opening half of the show. We'll be very, very pleased to get back in touch with you in 10 minutes. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen.
The post-COVID-19 era. And I think we all believe in that. We will get there. It's a difficult time right now, and we have faith we will come through this. However, I think one thing is really important to contrast that with is the whole issue of climate change. Climate change isn't reversible. There isn't a post-climate change era. I think there's basically a strong desire to switch to a zero emissions future. It's not a wish to get there gradually, it's now becoming a desire to switch.
The post-COVID industrial recovery plan must support a carbon neutral industry by 2050. But we also need measures to save our industries, particularly those in strategic sectors, such as aviation, energy, aluminium, space, and the automotive sector.
And within the discussions around the 2030 targets, the theme of this webinar is very much looking at whether or not we need targets for renewable and decarbonised gases. And if we increase the ambition, would we need to be looking at how we could also drive the uptake of renewable and decarbonised gases?
We will have a high demand for gaseous energy carriers over the next decades, also in 2050. And if we want this to work, we need to decarbonize the gas sector.
I think heads of state and government have agreed that there's going to be a common vision of achieving climate neutrality by 2050. It will take a real industrial strategy on the part of the EU to drive forward these technologies and to allow us to achieve our long-term targets.
Methane emission is a topic that has been very important for us for a long time, maybe in the past more on the safety issues, but now very strongly also on the environmental impact.
That oil and in particularly natural gas are going to play very important roles in an energy system for decades to come. This is the case even under very strong decarbonisation scenarios. But for natural gas to fulfil this role, it's important that the adverse social and environmental impacts of using natural gas are minimised.
Methane emissions from oil and gas is one of the top priorities for the Environmental Defence Fund. What we want to see in the EU methane strategy is urgency and ambition. This is very much a very fast-moving space in terms of technology development.
There is a number of new technologies and approaches that are coming about to measurement and detection of methane emissions. And some of the most promising ones are to do with satellites and other aerial detection instruments around the world.
How ready is the gas infrastructure to handle decarbonised and renewable gas?
So without natural gas, we would not be market leaders in our sectors. We would not be export champions as we are. It doesn't mean that we are not green and that we are not working intensively for decarbonization.
We need to change our lifestyles. We need to change the way we eat, the way we travel, the way we move, the way we heat or cool our houses. So it is really key to engage consumers and to make them participate in the conversation.
The answer to today's questions on is decarbonized and renewable gas needed for industries and consumers towards 2050? Well, the answer is yes.
It is probably necessary to think about it in a more holistic way to make sure that the synergies which exist between various energy carrier markets are fully exploited.
Switching from fossil to carbon neutral energy needs to become a business case. It needs to become a business case for every energy consuming sector.
We can envision a future where we reuse our emissions to produce products that we will use in our daily life and then their emissions will be again reduced, and it's a loop.
We need to make the energy transition work for everyone in Europe, including over 40 million European households in rural areas.
You should not, as a consumer, need to have a PhD in organic chemistry to know which of those renewable solutions is the best for you.
We have to take the approach that we need to use the technologies we have to achieve carbon neutrality, and we have to make sure we bring our consumers, we bring society with us.
There is a moment now to act.
If we want that transformation to take place in those established companies and sites, this will require a rapid phase-in of new technologies. The good news is the technologies exist.
We need to put up our sleeves now and get things done.
Variability of wind and sun.
Boilers should be replaced by heat pumps, and that sounds like some ideological NGO talk to me.
There's one footnote where the strategy says that heat pumps are 3 times more efficient than boilers, which we also don't agree with.
It's not about the boiler, it is the fuel that you use in the boiler.
It is an and scenario. We will need hydrogen, we will need renewable electricity, we will need biomass, we will need liquid fuels, we will need CCU, we will need CCS. We need to use the technologies we have to achieve carbon neutrality. And we have to make sure we bring our consumers, we bring society with us.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've managed to find a quick pause for some refreshments before we go into our second panel. And indeed, in the first panel, we've had a very good discussion about the evolution of the gas markets and the regulations relating to them. And of course, we've touched on the point of the new gases that will be coming in as we head towards carbon neutrality. This panel will be exactly looking at that, looking at those new gases and seeing how they can be deployed in Central and Eastern Europe. This is, of course, a crucial point for the whole European Union to meet climate neutrality. It can't be achieved by one region alone. It must be achieved by us all. And so I'm delighted to say that we have an absolute raft of experts for this next panel. And it's going to be steered with a very good shipmaster, Andreas Gut, Eurogas' own policy director. And I'm delighted to have Andreas with us here today. Andreas, I'm really looking forward to your panel and looking forward to hearing from your experts. And so I'm going to give you the floor. Over to you.
Thank you very much, James. And of course, very pleased to be moderating this panel. And Lenka, of course, in the interest of gender diversity, we've kept this second panel as an all-male panel. So very warm welcome to all of you for the second discussion on the future role of gas in Central and Eastern Europe, looking in particular at the potential for clean gas technologies. Perhaps before we begin, I would like to encourage the audience, all of you following us live, please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A box. And please also mention if your questions are addressed to the entire panel or to one of the panelists in particular. Before we start, let me briefly introduce all of our panelists. And perhaps at the start, there's a small change in the program in the sense that Bogdan Kirinturia unfortunately couldn't join us today due to a last-minute change. So we are joined here with two representatives, who is the President Advisor to the Energy and the Commission. We have Björn Blankesborg, who is the Head of International Sales at ACUE. Can you hear me? All right, sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. So we have Björn Blankesborg, who is the Head of International Sales at Bts Biogas, one of the leading European technology providers for biogas installations. We have with us also Milan Orban. He's the Chairman of the Board of Directors of SPP, one of the leading energy suppliers in Slovakia. And last but not least, Frank Neal, who is member of the Executive Board of OMV Petro, the largest oil and gas producer in Southern East Europe, where he's responsible for the downstream gas business. So I'd like to, Tudor, I'd like to kick off with you. Tudor, what is your view on the role of on the future role of gas in the implementation of the Green Deal objectives in Central and Eastern Europe? Tudor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you, James, for the invitation. Pleased to be with you here today. And I have to say, it's of course a very timely discussion also for Central Eastern Europe. Now, the Green Deal, let me start by saying it's one of the top priorities of the European Commission, as you know, and it comes at a moment when it's even more important than ever before, because comes now the implementation at the moment when we speak about economic recovery after this terrible COVID crisis and health crisis, which is not yet ready, but we start to see solutions to that. So in this context, it's very important to understand that the Green Deal comes actually from the energy perspective with two very important dimensions. First of all is to reduce greenhouse gas emission reductions, to achieve reductions by 2030 already. Yeah. So we had also before long-term decarbonization strategies, but if you may recall, many actions were actually after 2030. Now the objective is to accelerate, to have the transition faster, and in this way to already invest in the next decade massively to achieve these decarbonization targets for 2030, the 55% announced by President von der Leyen, and in this way to avoid two things, to avoid lock-in effects and to avoid also stranded assets. And this is very important also for Central Eastern Europe. We have seen the IEA estimations for this year in Europe is that energy investments went down, including for renewables, 17%. So we need to get out of this economic crisis and to recover. And we need more capex now in order later on to have less OPEX. So actually, over the life cycle of investments to get benefits and to achieve the decarbonization in the most cost-effective way. So it's a clear objective of the Green Deal, moving towards carbon neutrality. And we see that the world is not just parts of Europe, it's entire Europe, and it's also the entire world which is following in this direction. Quite recently, you have heard that China is aiming to reach carbon neutrality by 2060. Now, some days ago, Japan announced for 2050. Korea is following. So all the developed economies, but not only, are trying to develop in a more sustainable way. This being said, we know that we'll need an energy mix, and there is no silver bullet for anything. And we'll need to have an evolution of the energy mix, which to take into account also opportunities and also technologies which develop and which develop relatively fast. We have seen, for example, for batteries, significant decreases in energy in their capex, but we also seen for renewables in particular reaching grid parity. Now we see on the same pathway moving electrolyzers for renewable hydrogen production. So it's a very dynamic environment, also from a technology point of view, which we need to take into account. And when I say this is because in the future, the analysis we have shows that the share of electricity will increase, of course, towards 50% in the final energy consumption from 23% today. But we'll still have a significant part of the final energy consumption, half of it, which will be biomass, but will also be gases and liquid fuels. And it's very important that this part of the energy consumption is decarbonized as well, and is decarbonized everywhere in Europe. So we need to tackle the opportunities which we have in this area and to make sure that the future energy system and the gas part of the energy system will include more decarbonized gases, of course, first of all, biogas, biomethane, but also hydrogen, also synthetic methane, maybe, and in this way to ensure decarbonization of the energy system. We'll also have synthetic fuels, in particular for aviation and for other applications in transport. So it will be a combination of this solution. Speaking about the gas, it's also very important because we see a role for gas in many areas, and you are aware of what we have, the Just Transition Fund now under the Green Deal, and in connection with the crisis, Europe came with a very ambitious package of recovery and resilience, Next Generation EU. But in this context, we also have the Just Transition Fund to help the most vulnerable regions. And in this context, we discuss also about how regions which are mainly dependent on coal, for example, need to move away from this in a more sustainable way. And we acknowledge in some cases natural gas may have a role to play in a transition phase, but depending on a case-by-case basis. The direction is in any clear towards the decarbonized gases. And we see these possibilities really moving into the direction at all levels of the energy system. Hydrogen will play an important role for decarbonizing heavy-duty transport. In our view, we came with a strategy, but also came with a strategy in a more broader context of energy system integration this summer. And in addition to this, will play a role in decarbonizing carbon-intensive industries. And this is for this we came with a strategy which includes a strong investment agenda and targets for electrolyzers for 2024 and 2030, moving up to 40 gigawatts installed, and then to make use, of course, in the most efficient way of hydrogen in these hard to decarbonize sectors. We'll need, of course, in this context to ensure that we have common definitions. We have come also in the strategy definitions, but we'll need certification for ensuring that we can trace and make renewable gases and hydrogen contributing to the targets we have on decarbonization, and also gradually to develop liquid markets at European but also at global level. So we acknowledge also maybe in the future the need to import amounts of renewable hydrogen to Europe. So this is the direction, and this is a direction in which Central Eastern Europe has to get anchored and tap the opportunities it has. Or it has opportunities, and we have seen studies made by IRENA on big opportunities for renewables also in Central Eastern Europe. Now, we came also this year with offshore renewable strategy, and we see there are even in this area big opportunities now also on the Black Sea coast, so which should be tapped and should ensure that we use this renewable potential to produce renewable gases. We need to develop the infrastructure and to adapt the infrastructure. If it is to hydrogen, most effective in some cases would be repurposing of the existing gas infrastructure. But there are also situations, in particular local level, distribution level, when we can see a role to increase the share of biogas and biomethane, or in why not also synthetic methane in certain conditions. So there is not one silver bullet to this, and this is something which the whole industry has to accommodate. There is a diversity of solutions which takes into account the availability of resources and the technology developments which we have seen are happening sometimes faster than expected, and we need to adapt the regulatory framework in such a way as to tap the opportunities we have in these areas everywhere, and to keep the whole Europe on track in achieving the targets and in securing that there is a European-wide energy market which is functional. Yeah, I guess this is what we have discussed before.
Thank you very much, Tudor. Yeah, very interesting, of course, the reflection on the need for a cost-effective energy transition and your view on the role for renewable and low-carbon gases in industry and transport in particular. I'm very much wondering, but perhaps we can get back to that later, on what is your view on the role of these gases in the building sector. But maybe before we get into that question, I'd like to give the opportunity to Björn also to perhaps present his view on the role of gas in Central Eastern Europe, in particular, what kind of solutions you're offering for the gas sector and what is the potential for biogas in Central Eastern Europe. And we can come back to some of the questions later on.
Thank you, Andreas, very much. And thanks to Eurogas for this opportunity. And greetings from Italy. My name is Björn Blankespoor. I work for Bts Biogas, and Bts Biogas is doing nothing new. I heard about new technologies also on the first panel. We are simply doing biogas, so anaerobic digestion. And we are biogas technology suppliers, so we build small plants, farm-based, industrial plants for municipalities, biogas, so CHP or biomethane. Today we have something like 220 biogas plants worldwide installed, and we are we are dealing with a natural process. Just briefly to let everybody understand a little bit more in detail what's exactly biogas. Biogas is just a natural process, so that makes it very fascinating, where bacteria decompose organic wastes in absence of oxygen to produce biogas. So biogas is a renewable fuel. And of course, digestate, that's the end product that comes out from the process, and that's used as biological fertilizer. And this significantly reduces the greenhouse gases, because when I'm talking about energy, I'm talking about CH4, so methane. So with this process, we avoid that the methane goes into the atmosphere, and capturing by that, we transform it in energy. And remember, just to give you a rough number, not only in Europe or Eastern Europe, but we are talking about 60% of organic wastes today are just dumped somewhere. So they are somewhere rotting, somewhere producing energy and polluting the atmosphere. So today, our suggestion is to give you the experience that we lived in since more than 20 years today, and where from a bigger picture point of view, we are this technology is asked more and more worldwide because landfills are closing, incinerators are being more and more expensive. So with just this natural process, we can avoid emissions from three main sectors that are, let's say, responsible for the most emissions. And these three sectors for us are energy, waste, and agriculture. So energy, the solution of biogas is to purify the CH4 into biomethane, and then the biomethane in, for example, renewable natural gas, LNG. And this technology, there are an overdose of these technologies to get that energy. Germany is giving free taxes for trucks to drive just with this renewable energy. Here in Italy, there are distributors to do that. So we could change overnight almost to this long haul heavy duty transport by using just biogas from the organic waste and transformed in renewable natural gas. The second one is all the, as I told you, all the organic waste decomposition that accounts about 88% of the global greenhouses. So we are avoiding also that. And third, but not least, we are producing a fertilizer. And you know that in agriculture today, mostly it's used a fossil-based fertilizer. So you have these three solutions just coming from one energy that you are taking from what today is going into a landfill. We are, as an example here in Italy today, we are working also with companies. I just mentioned one because it was published on a press release a few weeks ago. We were working with Engie Italy. I saw that Mr. Stab of Engie Romania was present at the beginning of this of the first panel. And so these are the new targets that are, of course, present in Romania, in Eastern Europe, but also with municipalities. So municipalities that are collecting the green waste from the kitchen, from the households, just to generate a renewable fuel, and that same fuel can then be used in as the fleet of the municipality to collect those organics. Another point is, another specific use of biomethane, or better, bio-LNG, is for the ships. So for the boats, big bunkers for LNG are today used in the biggest harbors around the world, and this can be logistically changed by using bio-LNG without any modification. So the short message is the solution is already there. So there are trucks. I don't want to mention any brands, but more than 5 brands are producing trucks based on LNG. There are companies like us that can help in a biogas plant, and there are companies like Engie willing to open this solution. So the short message is, it's all doable, but we have to be honest and we have to say the truth that today a renewable bio-LNG is not able to compete to any fossil. Same is for electricity, we learned that, but today we are facing the same problem again. So some countries are changing their mind. Some companies are changing their mind by not comparing, and this is my last message, by not comparing the cost for cubic meter energy, fossil-based, against a renewable fossil based. If you do that comparison, again, you are not competitive, but you have to think about the big picture. So the CH4 that you saved in the atmosphere, the biofertilizer, and the green economy, the circular economy that goes back in a closed loop. Thank you.
Thank you, Björn. So I take away that indeed biogas has a lot of positive externalities, and in order to make biomethane biogas a competitive option, we need to make sure that these are recognized and valorized in the business case. But thanks. Maybe we can get back to that. And let me also remind the audience that you have the opportunity to send your questions through the Q&A box on the screen. So I invite you to do that. But let's go on then to Milan Orban. Milan, what solutions is your company promoting in terms of the future of gas in Central Eastern Europe, and what is your strategy for the future?
Good evening, everybody. At first, I would like to say thank you to organizer for having this opportunity to be part of this panel. And probably at the beginning, I should very briefly introduce the situation in Slovakia, because it is completing, besides my experiences, my colleagues of Romanian from the central part of Europe. The history is gas sector in Slovakia has more than 160 years. It means that we have a lot of experiences, and according to European rules, we adapt quite strictly vertically division gas into transmission, distribution, and supply. From the point of view on transition, we are connected not just between western and eastern part of Europe, having a relation towards Ukraine or Czech Republic, but also there was built connection to the Hungary, Ukraine, and Austria also. From the point of view of distribution, we probably have one of the biggest network in Slovakia. Highest density, because about more than 94% of the household has an access to the gas network. SPP, what I'm representing, provides reliable supplies of gas and electricity, more than 1.3 million offtake points. It means that we have quite extensive customer portfolio. Since 2012, we also entered the market with electricity, and nowadays our share is about 55% on the gas field, and steadily we are rising our share on the electro market, nowadays achieving 6%. Despite I am representing a wholesale company, I would like to introduce my view, not just a company which I represented, but also taking into account more wider view of Slovakian gas industry, society, and there is also reflection to all Central and Eastern Europe understanding of this topic, vision and position natural gas in transition period, and how could our sector be supportive to achieving goals setting by Green Deal agreement. Probably all of us are raising our hands up very convincingly when we are speaking about objectives leading to better environment, cleaner air, carbon dioxide reduction, and so on. But if we are considering the measures and way how to achieve this target, probably in this moment could differ our approach. And this is probably first point what I would like to make, that for the future there is quite big challenge for the energy sector. because expectation of fulfillment of this all of this target creating a lot of opportunities, but also a lot of tasks for us. And my first point, what I would like to point it is that there is possible to do only if we are considering diversification of industry. It means that despite we are representing gas industry, we should thinking more complex, and our company has some target for the future from a strategic point of view, and some of it was mentioned speakers which has their speech in front of me. It means that we would like spread our business not only from the supplying of gas and adding to supplying of electro energy, but in the future we would like put the stress also for the production of energy, especially from renewable energy sources. In this case is quite impressive role of biomethane, what was mentioned by Bjorn. And also we have our target in transport, because we are also providing in the moment CNG fuel station, and we have plan regarding this our small network how to spread LNG fuel into it. I don't want to repeat the things what was told by my predecessor, but another second important point what I would like to say is that still, despite that there is a lot of similar things between western and eastern part of Europe, still are some differences, and from this point of view it's very necessary to allow to member countries to choose their own path, how to fulfill all these targets which are expected to be fulfilled. This is the main what I would say at the beginning. Probably we could discuss more deeply, concretely targets into heat industry, because this is quite quick win for probably every Eastern Europe country, how to reduce carbon dioxide and how to reduce pollution, because still is a quite big stake of coal and heat production in this region. But also we could consider the long period, not just short targets. And from this point of view, important things what I feel is to use also gas network competing with the electricity, and it means that it could be competition on concept, because from my point of view, when we are pushing everything into electricity, it could appear that it will be very complicated to organize grid. And we have here quite a nice grid of gas supply, and this is also what could help fulfillment of this European target. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Milan. Well, yes, indeed. I mean, there's no silver bullet that does it all, and we need to cater for a diversity of different solutions. Not only in terms of the vectors we will be using for the transition, but also between the different European member states. And that, of course, is a great challenge to policymakers, well, of course, also in Brussels. But thank you very much. Then let's move to Frank. Frank Neal, really same question to you. What is your vision on the future role of gas, and what is the strategy of your company for the future?
Yes, good evening, and thank you for Eurogas for the invitation. Very pleased to be able to join and to participate to this debate. First of all, I would say from OMV Group perspective, we are looking to be also carbon neutral by 2050. And for OMV Petrom, we will publish next year. What is important, of course, is 2050, but also what's your 2025, 2030 targets? Because I think that's also what your stakeholders and customers are looking for. In terms of energy transition, first, I think there are two words that sometimes are missing in the debate. One is affordability and the other one is competitiveness. I think we need to keep in mind when we're talking about energy transition and looking for decarbonization, we need to make sure that we are looking for solutions we are cost effective in terms of investment and in terms of CO2 reduction. So I think this needs to be important if we want the people to accept also the energy transition. That's for affordability. And for competitiveness is to make sure our industry stay in Europe, because I think the last 20 years, Europe is very proud that we have achieved a massive reduction of CO2, but we didn't really achieve a carbon reduction in terms of footprint. We just have a delocalization of our heavy industry to China, so principally China or India. So the carbon footprint is even worse because now we import products which are produced by coal. So we need to be careful we are not accelerating this delocalization. For example, we are talking a lot about e-mobility. If the next electrical car is produced in China or in India, where 75% of the power is produced by coal, we have not solved the solutions for the world and for the climate. So I think I always want to put back on the debates. We are supplying customers in Romania or everywhere in Europe, and this debate of competitiveness and carbon price is a key issue for competitors. So we need to make sure that we find the mechanism to protect also our industry in this journey. In terms of energy transition, I mean, the sectors we are looking and talking about the roadmap and to make it cost effective. If I look at Romania, but I would say Southeast Europe and even Central Europe in general. First, if you look at the energy sector of electricity, the power sectors, of course, there is a quick way in terms of achieving a target by 2030 is to switch from coal to gas. It's a cost effective. You have a massive reduction of CO2, and you will be affordable in terms of price of electricity. And you don't need massive subsidies to achieve that. It's already cost effective. You could use also, of course, some renewable. I don't say we should not put some renewable, but a country like Romania, for example, have already quite a lot of renewable in his fuel mix. Has already achieved some target in terms of 2020 in his fuel mix. So you can do more, but then you will have also issue in terms of lands where you can put solar panel. Agricultural lands are not authorized for use of solar panel. And in terms of wind farm, it's very located to one region where the grid connection is also difficult. So there will be more investment needed before you can develop more renewable in Romania, for example. So gas will have a role to play if we want to have quick win, because here 2030 will come very quickly. So if we don't want to delay any decision in terms of investment or major infrastructure, we need to look at the quick win. So for energy sectors, clearly, I see the role of gas in the switch from coal to gas, and that's also part of the energy strategy of Romania. And I saw that for Czech Republic, for Bulgaria, and for Hungary, very similar target. For transport, we know for the heavy transport, heavy trucks, lorries, that LNG is a competitive fuel today, can be competitive for today. And I think, Bjorn, in Italy, you can see the last 5 years, a huge development of LNG. Sometimes we could mix with bio-LNG as well. That could be certainly one thing in the future. The same for CNG with biogas. You could mix gas with biogas to achieve a better footprint for the mobility, for green mobility. So here on transport, there are some quick wins as well, cost effective. You can reduce, especially for fleets in the cities, buses or airport or waste collectors, CNG and LNG for long distance trucks. So here it's already on the way, and we see that it's cost effective before hydrogen or before electrical vehicles for heavy trucks. So here you can have, again, quick win with technology which is available, and you need to give the right framework for that. I mean, in Romania, for example, taxes on LNG and CNG are too high to be developed and to be competitive. Now, the third sector was in terms of buildings and households. What we see, for example, in Southeast Europe, you still have a lot of people at home are using coal or wood. And here, the grid connection, there is still a potential in terms of grid connection. Again, it's quite cost effective, where you can connect people, support the high efficient gas boiler for these customers, and you will have an immediate impact on CO2 versus coal or wood. Before thinking of converting these people to hydrogen, there will be a path for this decarbonization. And I think we need to be realistic about this path. It cannot be straight to hydrogen. It has to go through a gas network development and bring the gas to these people. In terms of, and that will be even more affordable than coal or wood for these people. So it's within the interest also of the population, will be easier for that. Again, for Romania has a potential to be the first gas producer in Europe, in European Union, thanks to the Black Sea. So there is also a potential in terms of security of supply to guarantee gas for the population, for the industry, and eventually for the neighboring countries as well. So that's something also to keep in mind in terms of affordability, resources in your country close to your demand. Now, talking about this roadmap, talking about the quick win we can develop already now, with existing technology by 2030, and have achieved the target that we want to achieve by that date. But we have to also to prepare the future on 2050. And here, talking about hydrogen, we do consider that there should be a mix of blue hydrogen, and I suppose you have talk about blue hydrogen today already, and green hydrogen. And blue hydrogen, that will mean two things. It could be, first of all, pyrolysis. So we don't talk too much today about this technology, but we do think that could have a future, because you use gas and you use electricity. So you could use renewable gas or natural gas and renewable electricity, and you produce hydrogen and you produce black carbon that you can use in the industry or in different it's easy to store as well. Or the classical reformer and the carbon capture and carbon storage. So again, in Southeast Europe, we have gas storage, we have facilities, and we have the geologists due to the oil and gas industry who can help to develop also this new infrastructure. So here we see that it's important that we create some pilot, to test this technology in terms of carbon capture, in terms of carbon storage, and in terms of pyrolysis, to show that not green hydrogen can match all the targets we want to achieve. If you look at the target of green hydrogen by 2030, it's 10 million tons of green hydrogen. For that, you will need about 600 terawatt hour of green electricity. So it's nearly the double of what we have the increase of production the last 10 years. So the next 10 years, we want to double what we have done the last 10 years just for the green hydrogen. And we still have to decarbonize the industry and to decarbonize the mobility sectors. So we have to be also realistic in terms of targets and what should be the right mix in terms of technology. And here, I don't think policy should decide what should be the fuel mix in terms of the mix of technology, but the market should decide. And I think that's also important to give this message to the policymaker. So that's I hope I was not too long.
Thank you very much, Frank. Well, I think one of the common themes indeed that we've heard throughout most of the interventions, not only of this panel, but today, is indeed the need to focus on cost efficiency as a really central element of the energy transition, and also the fact that we need to enable quick wins. And here, perhaps that is a good bridge to the first question, and linking also back to the previous panel. How are we going to enable quick wins? And here specifically looking at the EU financial instruments. So Lenke had mentioned, of course, in the previous panel that the European Commission is revising the sustainable finance rules, is revising state aid guidelines, and this will undoubtedly have an impact on the gas industry to raise capital. That might make it more difficult, more costly to raise capital in the future. How do you, and that's really an open question to all of you, how do you see the EU financing rules impacting the ability of the gas sector to finance the, achieve the climate objectives, not only long-term 2050, but also 2030, where of course the role of natural gas, as you rightfully underlined, has a key role to play in enabling quick wins? Maybe if we keep with the order, Tudor, if you have something to add.
Yeah, thank you. I think, as I have mentioned in my introduction, the concept of affordability, it's quite important. It's captured in many things. It's captured in the energy poverty guidance we have issued. It's covered in the Just Transition Fund and the Just Transition Mechanism. So we really acknowledge that the regions which are more vulnerable and the citizens which are more vulnerable should be supported in particular to make sure that they can take part in this journey of this energy transition. On the other hand, I have to say, it is a philosophy of the Green Deal. We need to be more ambitious. We need to be realistic, it's true, but we need to be more ambitious and to be cost effective, not over the next 2 years. We need to think where we need to get by 2050 and how do we plan our investments. And we may be needing to invest more now in order to have cost reductions later on and to avoid maybe decisions which we'll regret later on and which will become eventually stranded assets. And we don't want any region of Europe to be left behind, neither in terms of cost effectiveness, but also not in terms of technological development and of capacity to cope with the realities of the world in which we are moving on. You see, as I mentioned before, also the whole world is changing, and the big also oil and gas companies are now trying to think how to decarbonize and how to get into other businesses. That's why the offshore strategy is also providing additional capacities for renewables across Europe. And to be supplied and to have infrastructure to bring these capacities again to the whole Europe, continental, and on all the areas where there are industrial clusters and where there are customers. Another concept which one should not forget when we speak so much about cost effectiveness is, of course, energy efficiency. It is a huge potential on energy efficiency. And in Central and Eastern Europe, in particular, the potential for energy efficiency, also for buildings, is huge. That's why we came with the renovation wave. And for all these instruments, let me reiterate the importance also of securing the funding, which has to come, the majority of funding from the private sector. But now we have an immense opportunity with a very strong EU budget and the capacity to mobilize the structural funds on one hand, on the other hand, the recovery and resilience funds, the Just Transition Funds, and to support the energy transition. We speak about 1.8 trillion euros. We speak just for a country like Romania under recovery and resilience of grants for the next two years, 2021, 2022, of 10 billion euros to be absorbed in restarting the economy, in making the buildings more efficient, in developing renewable capacities in a cost-effective way, of course. Nobody, I think, imagines that the transition means to move overnight from point A to point B. But we need to see a clear trajectory. And for this, we have a governance system in place, the National Energy and Climate Plans, and where we try to have also per year during the period to see how we can get there. And now, of course, there is a political will and there's an opportunity which has to be tackled by the Green Deal and by the more ambitious targets for 2030. If we want to decarbonize, some preliminary calculations show that we'll need renewable electricity in the energy mix to reach even 65% by 2030 at the European level. So we have to see how we capture this possibility and how we make this cost effective. On the other hand, we see that the costs are decreasing for these technologies, in particular renewables, very fast, and we see maybe similar developments for hydrogen, for electrolyzers, for example. And all industries will need also to see this more as an opportunity and to see how to invest also in innovative projects, in research. And this is, we try to do through a number of partnerships. And we see that this is paying off. With electrolyzers, for example, we started 10 years ago, 10 kilowatt electrolyzer in production in Europe. Now, we already 2 years ago installed 10 megawatt in Colonia, in the Shell refinery. Now there is a 20 megawatt under construction. We launched now a call for 100 megawatt electrolyzer. And there are big ports across Europe which are trying now to move to hundreds of megawatts and maybe towards gigawatts to tap the potential. There are countries which are determined to replace 90% of the gas with hydrogen in just a couple of years from now on, to call Netherlands. I'm not saying that there is one solution for all. What I'm saying is that everyone should try to see what are the opportunities in the regions. The companies should be ambitious and tap the opportunities brought by the new technologies, think innovative, and think how they will get stronger in the future, and not only looking at the past.
Thank you very much, Tudor. Would perhaps one of the other panelists like to react to this, or Frank?
I can say from the point of view of Slovakia that there is still the room, still is the room how to decrease the carbon oxide, just very easy changing the coal into the gas, because during the last 30 years we made about 40% decreasing just this one action, and still is the room because roughly 10% of electricity and 18% of heat is still produced is generated by coal. It means that this is quite easy, and there don't need such big support to continue in these activities. But the question is complicated when we are considering the future, and we should consider the same thing in the same time, as everybody said that still is very important to keep competition on the market, efficiency. This is still the essential of standard health economy. But at the other hand, we have here financial instrument, some subsidy scheme, which are supporting the future regarding fuel like biomethane or synthetic methane or hydrogen. I am still keeping in mind that this is just transmitter of energy if we are considering the hydrogen or synthetic methane, and then we need at the beginning have some surplus of energy which is produced from renewable sources. It could be quite noticeable differences between Western and Eastern Europe, because in most of countries, Central and Eastern part of Europe don't have a surplus of these sources. It means that this need quite strong support of subsidy to created the sources of renewable energy, and then we could easily inject synthetic biomethane on hydrogen into network, which is nowadays providing just natural gas supply. That's it.
Yes, Andreas, wanted to come back to your question, I think, which is linked to the taxonomy, the text which is in preparation in discussion at the moment at the European level about the access to finance, in fact, which is an important aspect, and where there is a risk, as you mentioned, that new power generation, for example, with gas, will have a very difficult to find financial support or at very high level of interest. I think the risk with that, and I think we are discussing with the Romanian state, for example, to have also a voice on this taxonomy, because the risk with that is that you prolong the coal. And what will be a really madness when you think about the impact. We see that in Germany. Maybe you will have this effect also in Romania or in Southeast Europe. Is by doing that, you will prolong the coal, because solar plus battery will not be enough to replace the coal, and you will have no alternative as such, or maybe a new nuclear power plant. So we don't think it's the right thing to do. As I say, we consider renewables, of course, needs to increase its share, but we have to be careful about what is affordable, and again, what will make sense for the country in terms of reducing its CO2 target by 2030. So again, doing that, it will have a counter effect, is to increase the life of the coal, like we see in Germany as the situation at the moment, and you increase the CO2 at the end. So we don't think it's a solution. Now, I completely agree with Tudor. Energy efficiency, it's important, and I have to say, I work. I think I started to work my career in '93 on energy efficiency in Prague, where we're converting Prague from coal to gas, and also improving energy efficiency of the building, because we say we should not only to convert coal to gas the city, but also to reduce and improve the isolation of the building. But I think on that, we need to think about how we can improve, because since 30 years we talk about energy efficiency, but we have been, as a European policy, I think, less efficient than in renewable, for example. I think renewable, we have achieved by 2020 a rate of renewable and when you see the development of offshore wind, etc., quite impressive. But on energy efficiency, we're not there. And I think, before targeting again the power sector, I think there is many things to do also on the energy building, and try to review why we have not been successful as much in this sector in terms of CO2 footprint.
Thank you very much indeed. Tudor, I think that was a clear reference also to you. Maybe you would want to react.
Yeah, of course, I can add. I think in terms of opportunities sometimes to shift from coal to gas, we acknowledge this, and there are regions where this may be a solution. Important is to do it in a smart way, so not to create a permanent dependence, and to avoid eventually, as I said, stranded assets. This is, but there are regions where it may not be possible to shift directly from coal to something else. We may need gas, and gas can be a solution for a transition period. We acknowledge that. At the same time, buildings, exactly, I'm fully agree with Frank. The progress is not as impressive as would have liked to be. Therefore, now we came also with a renovation wave and try to mobilize more resources, try to mobilize also some regulatory measures, but also to take advantage of technology. Yeah, a lot have evolved over the last decades. Also in terms of IT, which enables now the consumers to become prosumers, to play a more effective role in the markets. The different distributed solutions are also for power generation, including PV, and so became more cost effective. And I'm not saying that this should be the only solution. For large-scale renewable integration, that's why we have the role of hydrogen. And as the IEA shows, already today, if we speak over 48 hours and we speak about gigawatt hours, chemical storage can be a competitive solution. Hydrogen is already in becoming a competitive solution. And I mean that at the moment, we have to look at other opportunities as well. So I made the calculation, 3 big tanks of ammonia, of 20,000 cubic meters, could actually store as much electricity as 1.8 million Tesla batteries installed in homes, power wells. So it depends what we speak and how all these technologies will have to find their role, and depending on what the purpose they serve and the scale they serve for the different applications. So I don't think it's a contradiction in this. What it takes is maybe more determination and more innovation which to be brought to the markets and which we are willing to support through the Horizon program, but also, and this is again for Central Eastern Europe, a big opportunity is the structural funds, which for the next period are mainly focused on there are 5 policy objectives, but policy objective 1, which is industrialization, smart specialization, together with policy objective 2, which is climate change, environment, energy transition, combined make between 60 and to 85% of total funds allocated to support these structural changes in the economy and refocusing the economy. So this is something, and which at the same time will help to create industries, to create jobs, to attract investments. And I think this is something very, very important.
Well, thank you very much, Tudor. We have about 3 minutes left, but actually I think this was almost an excellent conclusion to this debate, really almost a good summary in the sense that you underlined again that there is no silver bullet, and we really need to cater for quite a diversity of the different solutions, not only in terms of technology, but also in terms of taking account of the different starting points of the different regions and the different countries. So I think, well, with this, it's been really inspiring to listen to all of you and your interventions. It seems that clearly there's a role for gas in the transition in Central Eastern Europe, and certainly also long-term future, with increasing tendency for decarbonized renewable and decarbonized gases. So, well, perhaps with that, I'd like to thank you all on behalf of Eurogas for being here with us today and for your great contributions. And with that, and 1 minute early, hand back to James. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you,
Andreas, and thank you to all the panelists as well. I think that was a really inspiring discussion about, well, the great opportunities there are, and indeed that we can still see natural gas as a transition fuel that does have a future indeed in the long term in this region of Europe, but across Europe, as we talked more about the possibilities as well for things like seasonal storage. And it was good to hear there, Tudor, at the end, recognising the great values of things like ammonia. And I know you and I, Andreas, have talked a lot about the value of the gaseous fuel system also as a great storage opportunity when we have more renewable electricity in the grid in the next 30 years or so. Andreas, as ever, you've been a great moderator, and I really appreciate the insights that you've drawn out of your panel. And I will look forward to, of course, seeing you tomorrow on another video call, I'm sure. But for the rest of the audience, thank you very much, and say have a good evening. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you to your panelists as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a fantastic conference. We've really gone through quite a lot of very good high-level speeches. We've gone through some really important issues. But we also have an important closing speech, and I am delighted to say that I am joined by Lucian Petrica Rusu, who is the Secretary of State for Energy for Romania, who will be giving our closing speech. Good evening, Lucian. Very, very happy to have you with us. We're very, very keen to hear your thoughts on things you've heard today and also how you see the future of energy in Romania in relation to the Green Deal and how you can play a role to achieve those objectives. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Welcome. Hello and thank you for the invitation to this important conference. As a professional who worked over 10 years for the largest private energy supplier in Romania, I always followed with interest the activity of Eurogas. As a state secretary in the Romanian government, I coordinate the activity of our national gas transmission system operator, Transgaz. In this context, let me assure you that I share your vision for a European gas market that supports energy efficiency, carbon dioxide emissions reduction, and the development of renewable energy. I was happy to see during this event support for the Paris Agreement and the EU's ambition to reach climate neutrality. This common goal is both a challenge and an opportunity to develop new energy ecosystems and give future a better and healthier chance. Romania also aims to transform its energy sector. As proof, we already begun the coal transition in a step-by-step process. But to take something out, you must have something to put in place. So, in the Green Deal context, we believe that natural gas can function as a solid bridge for the transition from coal to renewable energy sources. Without a doubt, the gas industry will have to develop an efficient long-term decarbonization strategy alongside the needed infrastructure, all future-proof and at optimized costs. Currently in Romania, we have a stable and interconnected energy market. We are an important player in the region, and we have one of the most balanced energy mixes in the European Union. However, the fact that Romania still has a high share of coal-based energy production, over 25% of the total, poses problems and aligning with the objectives of the European Green Deal. The energy sector is a priority for the Romanian government. In addition, we know that investment in infrastructure, including energy infrastructure, is essential in restarting the economy's engines due to the global pandemic crisis. Last but not least, we seek to capitalize on a major advantage. We have our gas production, which can cover more than 80% of domestic consumption. As such, we encourage investments made by national company in the field. Transgaz understood this approach and elaborated an extended development plan for a period of 10 years, based both on the strategies and policy of the Romanian government and on the objectives of the new policies of the European Union. It also completed strategic projects like phase 1 of Brewa, the gas pipeline connecting Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and Austria, and Iași-Ungheni-Chișinău gas pipeline, which ensures the connection of the Republic of Moldova to the natural gas system in Romania. They are important not just for our national energy security, but also for EU's energy security. Other two important aims are to start the natural gas exploitation in Neptune deep perimeter in the Black Sea, and to significantly increase the role of clean hydrogen as an energy carrier. Obviously, we still have to take important steps at both national and European level to reach the Green Deal objectives. Increasing the share of renewable in the energy consumption in the key, but this in place. Considerable investments, technological upgrades, replacement and construction of new capacities, human resources training, and in an interconnected world, digitalization. Such changes can't happen overnight. Nevertheless, history prove that where there is a will, there is a way, and I'm sure this also applies for the Green Deal. Together, in a united Europe, where no country or community is left behind, we will find a way. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I hope that by 2050 the Eurogas conference topic will be how Europe became the first climate neutral continent.
Thank you very much, State Secretary, and that's a great optimistic note to end on. And I really appreciate the insights you've mentioned there on the infrastructure as well. We heard the term stranded assets being mentioned in the last panel, and I think that you're right in saying that there are investments which are not stranded assets that we need also for the security of supply, also for the security of supply of Europe. So I very much appreciate that, and really very good to have those insights this evening. And I wish you a very good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this, our 6th Central and Eastern European Conference. It's been a great pleasure for me to host it. I've worked a lot with our good friends in Romania, and we've had a good focus on the Romanian system today, and I think we've all learned a lot about what is going on in Romania. And indeed, I share the State Secretary's ambition. I hope that we will be able to say that working together, working with all of the different vectors, looking at the different opportunities that we have, we will be able to achieve our Green Deal goals, with gaseous fuels right at the heart of it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. I must thank ACUE, I must thank the Eurogas team who put this together. It really wouldn't have been possible without them. The great panelists, the wonderful moderators, both Lenka and Andreas, doing a great job today, and of course all our high-level speakers. But most of all to you, the audience, for spending your afternoon with us. I hope you found it useful and interesting. If there are any questions that were not answered today during the debate, we will put them on our LinkedIn, and you'll be able to go there to find the answers. We will also make available a recording of this event for those of you who wish to look over some of the speeches and hear what people said once again. And I must finally remind you all, please go onto Twitter, go onto LinkedIn, look at Eurogas and see the Clean Tech Gas campaign that we're running, which is highlighting all of those wonderful technologies you've heard about today: electrolyzers, biogas, CCS, CCU, pyrolysis, all of those things that are being made here in Europe, European jobs for European technologies that can be deployed here to achieve our Green Deal objectives. It's been my pleasure to be your host. I wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us for the Eurogas Central and Eastern European Conference. We hope to see you again next year.